Here are the 6 things that we do with every single one-to-one client that comes and works with us to ensure that they win. Guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a little bit of a new setup for me. We actually paid for a studio for the day, and we're doing some other videos, but we thought we'd do some YouTube videos while we're here. So number 1 is form analysis videos. So what we do with every single client is we send them a movements list. So it's a list of about 10 to 12 movements. They're the big key movements and demonstrate the big key movement patterns that we're going to need to show throughout the program, so that we can get them to film them, send them over to us, and we can see as a coaching team how they actually move in the gym. Obviously, we haven't worked with these people before. We're not working with these people in person. So it's very important that we do our due diligence to make sure that these people are moving safely, moving efficiently, and more importantly, are going to get the most out of these sessions that we now program for them. If we don't see them move for 6, 7, 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're not getting results, well, it's probably because they're not actually executing the movements to the standard at which we need them to execute them to. So it's super important that one of the first things we do is get them to send a movements list across, videoed from a few different angles, so we can see as a team exactly what they need to work on. And typically it's 1 to 2 little cues from myself or one of the other coaches, and it revolutionizes how they actually move in the gym. From maybe it's a squat or a deadlift or whatever it is, and they're now getting far more out of the same effort that they were putting in before. So it's a massive high leverage thing that we do first to get the most out of that first couple of days with the individual. Okay, number 2 is the client gets added in to a hyper support group chat with 3 coaches. So they've got myself, obviously, and they've got our 2 other coaches. So our head of client accountability, who is a former Royal Marine like myself, served with me for a couple of years and now serves in the RAF as a PTI. So he takes care of the accountability side, to making sure they're holding themselves to a good standard and making sure they're doing the work that they should be doing. We then got Ed, who's our head of strength and conditioning, and he's really there to oversee program design and make sure they're getting everything they need from a programming perspective to move them forward, mainly from Ed's perspective in a strength setting, plyometric setting, so that we've got enough volume and frequency within the program for them to move forward from those angles. In the same vein as that, when we're building out the program, we'll shoot it over to our rehab, we'll shoot it over to our head of rehab, Gaz, and he'll just make sure that they have enough prehabilitation work in the program that ideally throughout the process they're not going to get injured. So it's our job to make sure that's in there initially, and then we run it by Gaz to make sure that there is enough of it in there and he can put his sort of expert lens on the program. The third thing is a nutrition screening process. This is very simple and it's headed up by our nutritionist Lucy, but essentially all it kind of looks like is they're going to do a food diary over the next 14 days to give an accurate representation of actually what is coming in from a nutrition perspective. Because just like testing lifts, which we'll get into in a second, we need some context as a coaching team, and our nutritionist needs context as to what you're currently doing, so that we can then give you a steer in terms of how to move in the correct direction. If we have no context and we just start giving you random bits of advice, it's not really going to be that bespoke, and it's not really going to be that effective. So we need a little bit of a food diary, so that again we have a 14 days of data to pull from, and then once we have that, we can give you the correct couple of changes, and it's always 1 to 2 changes initially every single week to build on and build on and build on, so that eventually we get to a point where your nutrition looks very, very different than it did when you came on board, but actually all it's been is a case of just changing one thing each week and getting to a period where 12, 16 weeks down the line, things look very, very different. It should happen gradually and people generally don't notice it. Number 4 is our testing week. Okay, so obviously this spans the entire first 7 days of the client's actual programming, but it's incredibly important and actually vital to someone's success is actually getting the testing right. So every individual that comes to work with us will have a different set of goals, will have a different start point. Okay, so it's really important that we get an idea for what exactly that start point is. 9 times out of 10, people won't know their 5K time, won't know key lift metrics, etc. So we need the data to make sure we can make an informed decision on what to do in the next 6 to 12 weeks with that individual. If we don't have data, we're just guessing effectively, which is what a lot of coaches do, and it's not going to get the results that we need out of that process, because effectively these people are paying us to get the fastest results possible. And so if we're not testing and we're not actually doing our job in the first couple of days to get a little bit of data, gather some parameters to work off in the next couple of weeks, then we're doing that person a disservice. So it's absolutely essential that that first week, that first 5 to 7 days, we're putting the correct tests into that person's program so that they can work on the correct things over the next 6 to 12 weeks. And we will test on the 7th week as well to make sure that things are moving in the correct direction. And finally, number 6 happens about 14 days after they've signed up or after they've started. And that's just a 14-day check-in. So after 2 weeks, obviously we've given them a certain amount of advice with technique. We've given them some programming to go and follow. We've given them some habits to implement into their lifestyle. Again, it's going to be minor things, but they're going to be some steers and some things we're going to give them for the first 14 days. After 14 days, it's a pretty robust length of time to go, okay, how are we getting on so far? So how's the volume? How's the frequency? How's the intensity in the sessions? How much rest are you getting? Are you managing to get all of your sessions in around work? Are you managing to uphold the standard with nutrition? All that kind of stuff. So that we check in 14 days from the start to make sure that actually that person is managing things appropriately and able to stick to what we're giving them longer term. Because if after 2 weeks they're like, oh, it's a little bit heavy, things are a bit intense in the gym, or I can maybe just about get it in around my work or whatever, then we're probably going to have to change things. And that's absolutely fine. And the whole process as we move through this 6, 12, 18-month sort of client journey is a process of test and adjust. So we'll do something for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, adjust it appropriately depending on feedback and results, and then continually do that throughout the process. And that's why we need such robust communication between our coaching team and the client or the athlete to make sure that we know exactly how they're getting on. So again, we can give them the appropriate things at the appropriate times. And fundamentally, guys, this is why, if you haven't got a coach and you're wondering why you're not moving forward with things, think about all the detail I've just gone into there from like the first 14 days in terms of how we leverage that time, and ask yourself the question, would that be beneficial right now for me? Because again, 9 times out of 10, if you're not moving forward with your training, there's going to be a reason for that. And we will find that reason in the first 14 days through this process. You can do it yourself if you like, but it's going to be a little bit effortful. So if you want some help with this, guys, and you want to come and work with us, obviously we take on a few people every month. So if you want to inquire, then the link in the description will be there for you. Click that, give us your details, we'll be in touch, and hopefully we can help you through the same process as we've now helped hundreds of people, depending on your goal and your situation.